It is well documented that a big part of Donald Trump's success to the White House for the 2024 election was because of social media influencers and YouTubers. And one of the interesting things is that watching the YouTubers and influencers going out for Donald Trump in the 2024 election, a lot of YouTubers would call out the mainstream media for the corruption and the way how they cover the news. And it is so interesting to see what is happening now. And the worst thing I would say, the worst thing you can do is become the person that you hate. The worst thing that you can do is become that organization that you speak out against. So to see the same YouTubers now doing the same corrupt practice that they accuse the mainstream media of doing, it is so hilarious. So today I want to talk about what happened yesterday in terms of the Donald Trump backing down from the tariff with Canada and Mexico. If you watch social media influencers, if you watch some of those same YouTubers, they are pretty much dancing in the street, celebrating a victory for Donald Trump. But that could not be further from the truth. So I'm in Canada, and I'm going to tell you what really happened. Let's break it down. So Donald Trump 25% tariff on goods and 10% tariff on oil coming from Canada was supposed to take effect today. But Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau in a meeting yesterday decided that they're going to delay the tariff for a month to see how they can work together to solve the issues that on both sides. But when you look on social media, when you look on YouTube and you see conservative influencers in America, they are pretty much dancing in the street, celebrating a victory for Donald Trump. And some of the takes that they have are so delusional because they're showing one side of the picture and trying to trick people with what they're doing. But I'm going to break it down for you today. So I'm going to show like a montage of what they're saying about this so-called victory for Donald Trump. Let's break it down.
Donald Trump scores a massive victory as disgraced Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is forced to bend the knee and give in to Trump's demands. So despite all the tough guy talk that was coming out of Canada, in less than 48 hours, both Mexico and Canada have decided to call it quits and do what Trump is asking, which is super reasonable, by the way. But where I have to start is with our friends up north who are begging for forgiveness so badly, they've decided to institute their very own fentanyl czar. Like him or hate him, you cannot say that Donald Trump isn't effective. And you had Justin Trudeau talking all big about the United States is going to regret this. This is going to hurt the U.S. We're sure going to show the U.S. with this one. Just to do this right before the deadline. It is so performative and fake. He could have easily just agreed to what Donald Trump asked of him instead of going through this whole stunt. But he's already a disgraced and ousted prime minister in Canada.
Of the border, but they've been fooling around. They have not enforced border security whatsoever. That's why 86% of terrorists that are on the terror watch list come through Canada. So clearly they haven't been doing their job, and fentanyl is coming through Canada as well. So there's that. And secondly, he makes the claim that tariffs are a threat to the economic security of a country. Yeah, but so is national security, okay? And if you guys are doing what you're supposed to do, would Trump actually have to implement these tariffs? I mean, I think that's a worthy question to ask.
And I like that. I like the fact that people absolutely submit, but in order for them to do so, you got to make your request known, and then you also got to let them know that you're standing on business. Again, 2 weeks in, literally sworn him in inauguration Monday, 2 weeks ago on the 20th, and now we're already seeing progress on our borders. And I like the fact that Canada and Mexico, Canada is following Mexico's, way and going about doing things to make sure that we all on the same page.
Okay, so those were the delusional takes. And it's so laughable. Like for them to take clips from the same corrupt media establishment that they talk about, to take clips from those media houses and to spin those clips to say, oh, Donald Trump, big win for Donald Trump. It is so ludicrous. Like it is pretty much, it is very laughable. And what's up with bending the knees, kissing the ring, and submission? What's up with that? Is there some fantasy that you guys need to talk about? Okay, so I'm going to break this thing down. Since these influencers and YouTubers, they're too lazy, they just want to take clips from these same traditional media that they call corrupt and put them together and tell their story to spin it from that side. I'm in Canada, I'm in Toronto, I'm in the middle of the action. Let me tell you what's going on from the Canadian side. So what is going on from the Canadian side? Let's talk numbers. So I heard mention 86% of terrorists in America comes through the border of Canada. That's what the numbers that you put out. Like, it's almost that those numbers were pulled from a hat or something. 86% of what number? Leave that in the comment section. 86% of what number of terrorists comes through Canada, the Canadian border, into America? And has there ever been any attack in America that was said to be done by illegal immigrant or terrorists that came through the Canadian border into America? Never heard of that. Put that in the comment section. Never heard of that. Let's talk numbers again. 1% of fentanyl goes through the Canadian border into America. 1%. What about the 30% of drugs that comes in from America into Canada? It's so convenient. That's not in it, right? Okay, let's talk numbers again. 95% of guns, illegal firearm that comes into Canada comes through that same border. 95%. That contributes to like over 400 murders in Canada. Illegal firearm comes through that border. So my point is, Canada and the United States of America have a vested interest in the border. So for you guys to be so delusional to paint this picture as if Canada, the responsibility of securing the border is only on the Canadian side, that is so uninformed, that is so uneducated, and that is just like pulling numbers out of a hat and trying to spin this thing to make Donald Trump look good when nobody wins. Nobody wins when drugs or guns come across, whether it's guns coming into Canada or drugs going into America. Nobody wins. So that is the point. Let's continue with numbers. So 65% of Americans believe that this trade war is a bad idea. 65% of Americans, when polled, said that this is a bad idea. And those numbers are conveniently left off just to spin your story. 65%. Another number, over 50% of businesses in Canada are American-owned business. Over 50%. Home Depot, Walmart, Costco, Uber, Lyft, and we can go on and on and on. Over 50% of businesses are American-owned businesses. So those are the numbers that you guys leave off because you just want to spin this in a way like the same propaganda media that you speak about, you are now becoming the thing that you curse. So let's talk about what really happened in Canada. So what I'm about to show you are clips from Canadian media that you're not going to see on American TV. And in order to get a full picture, you have to see both sides. So I'm going to show you now a clip from the former Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, and her reaction to this trade war. So let's take a look.
Well, you've been vocal about the need for strong and precise responses to President Trump's tariffs. What does that look like in your opinion?
Well, we need to be united, strong, and smart. We need to recognize this is a critical moment for our country. We need to recognize that we can get through this and we can win, but we can only do that if we do the right things. So what I think we need to do today is publish a detailed retaliation list. It needs to be big, bigger than our retaliation ultimately will be. It should be $200 billion worth, and it needs to be very specific because what we need to recognize is President Trump doesn't really care about us. He cares about Americans. And so we need to use the market power that Canada has as the largest export market for the U.S. to activate those internal stakeholders in the U.S. and get them to say to the president, wait a minute, this is going to hurt us.
Is there not a risk, however, that retaliatory tariffs will only turn up the temperature with this president instead of using diplomacy to cool it down and to find a way out of this?
Look, the reality with President Trump is the only thing he respects is strength. For this president, weakness is a provocation. The only way that we're going to get through this is by showing him that we're not scared, by showing him, hang on a minute, Canada is your biggest market. We're larger than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. I think a lot of Canadians are feeling really angry. And so I think each one of us needs to use our own personal power. When we go out buying groceries today, let's buy Canadian. And if you can't find a Canadian product, be sure not to buy American. Boycott them as long as they're beating up on us. I think each one of us can have our personal retaliation. It will make us feel better, it will make us feel stronger, and it's going to help our country to win.
Okay, so that was the former finance minister, Chrystia Freeland. And as said in that clip, Canada purchased more goods from the United States of America than the United Kingdom, than Mexico, than China combined. Yes, that's what I said. Canada, a population of 40 million people, purchased more goods from the United States of America than China, 1.4 billion population, Mexico, 128 million population, the United Kingdom, 68 million population, and Canada purchased more than those three countries combined. But if you had done your research, you would have known that whatever the business deal between Canada and America, it is a good deal. Donald Trump was the one that signed this deal. The North American Trade Agreement was signed by Donald Trump. Donald Trump shook hands with Justin Trudeau and the former Prime Minister of Mexico and said this was the best deal ever. That was only, 6 years ago? So this is so ludicrous. And conveniently, another thing that was left off was that the market was about to crash. Let's take a look.
Let's begin with breaking news in Donald Trump's trade war. Stocks opening down sharply this morning. You see the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ all in the red by several hundred. And we expect the president of Mexico to announce her country's response any moment now to the tariffs President Trump slapped on Mexico, Canada, and China over the weekend. Canada already announcing its own counter tariffs in response. Joining us now, NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez, our business correspondent Brian Chung, and Justin Wolfers, professor of economics and public policy at the University of Michigan. Brian, we're already seeing the markets responding here. We're also, of course, waiting to see what this means for everyday Americans on the cost of goods. What kind of reaction can we expect?
Yeah, well, Wall Street having a negative reaction to the tariffs. Again, this is the first market day since the tariffs were announced over the weekend, but we're seeing the Dow down over 1%. The NASDAQ, those tech-heavy stocks, are down 2%. But look, there are Main Street implications to all of this for regular Americans that have to pay for things that have already been expensive over the last 4 years. Those costs could rise further under these proposed tariffs. When you just talk about gasoline, for example, again, that 10% tariff specifically on Canadian energy likely to lead to increases of between 15 to 25 cents per gallon at the pump. And also when it comes to cars, this is a big one. The automotive industry is very deeply intertwined between our neighbors to the north and south. The average retail car price likely to rise by $3,000. And then you also look at the other types of goods that we import from Canada and Mexico. From Mexico, a lot of agricultural products, tomatoes, avocados. We also get beef and beer from them. And from Canada, you also look at some very similar types of products as well when you talk about beef as well. So look, the implications of this, I just can't underscore, are so wide ranging because these are our major trade partners when it comes to China, Canada, and Mexico. They account for 42% of all imports to the United States as of last year. These are our major friends and trade partners.
Okay, so those numbers were conveniently left off. Just look at it. For those who were celebrating the win for Donald Trump yesterday, for some reason forgot to put that the market was about to crash. And all the experts that I've heard so far said if this became a full-on trade war, what we would experience in Canada, in the United States of America, in Mexico, we would have to go back to the Great Depression in order to experience, like not in our lifetime, not even in the 2007 Bush collapse of the economy would not be as catastrophic as it would be if this became a full-on trade war. And you're going to look and say, Donald Trump did not see this coming, and Donald Trump did not have to make a deal right away to avoid this from happening. Donald Trump did not call Justin Trudeau and say, look, we don't want gas prices to go up at the pump. We don't want grocery to go up in the supermarket. No, Donald Trump just bullied his way through and won. So convenient. And another thing that you will not see on American media, this is about alcohol. Canada has the biggest alcohol company called the LCBO in the entire world. The LCBO is a government-run company that controls 100% of alcohol that comes into Canada. And a lot of those alcohol are coming from America. A lot of wine, a lot of whiskey, a lot of alcohol coming in from America. And Canada, Ontario, was about to pull the plug last night on American alcohol. But that also was not covered. Let's take a look.
Moments ago, big changes are coming to Ontario liquor stores as part of the ongoing trade war. The LCBO confirming that it will be pulling all American alcohol from its shelves starting Tuesday. Let's bring in CTV's Natalie Van Roy with the latest on this. Natalie.
Austin, it's a huge move that will have a major impact for shoppers, restaurants, and bars. The LCBO sells nearly $1 billion worth of American alcohol annually. The LCBO pulling all American alcohol from its shelves and its catalog starting Tuesday amid a trade war between the United States and Canada.
The whole thing is just stupid, and it's on both sides. It's hurting both sides of the border and a great friendship that we've had for many years.
And we all have to do our part to support Canada. So from now on, I guess I'll buy Canadian whiskey.
I think that's a great decision. I mean, they're putting a tariff on us, and then now, we have to fight back.
I think maybe it's a little harsh for some people, but I don't drink, so it's okay.
The Crown Agency sells up to $965 million worth of American alcohol annually, with more than 3,600 products from the states. In a statement, the LCBO said as part of Ontario's response strategy to the imposed U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods, the government of Ontario has directed LCBO to indefinitely stop all sales of U.S. alcohol products in our stores and online, and to stop wholesale sales of U.S. products to restaurants, bars, grocery, and other retailers no later than February 4th.
I think it's probably going to impact a lot of people. Obviously a lot of our market is derived from American supply.
I think it's fantastic.
The move will impact restaurants, bars, and breweries. At Beyond the Pale, a local brewery in Ottawa, the owner says it will make it difficult to make some drinks.
I was personally most worried about bourbons. I stocked up a little bit when I heard about it because that's kind of one of the products that's only made in the U.S.
But staff here are hoping the move means more people will support local.
We'd love to be able to sell more beer locally and to our fans. The way that the licensing works province to province is that we actually only sell in Ontario now because it's quite prohibitive to move it to the other provinces. It's not very easy to move your beer around in this country.
Meanwhile, the Ontario Restaurant, Hotel and Motel Association has expressed its full support for the removal of the U.S. liquor.
And this is one side of the story that conservative YouTubers are not going to show. And to me, why tell a story if you're going to tell half the story? Tell the full story and let the viewers decide. Don't tell half the story and try to spin it to your benefit, because that makes no sense. Because you're going to tell me a company like LCBO pulling $1 billion worth of American alcohol is not going to have an impact on American companies. It's not going to have an impact on American jobs. Please tell the full story and let the viewers decide. And another thing that you won't see on American TV is how Canadians were united in terms of buying Canadian products and not touch anything for America product that is in Canada. And that also would devastate American workers, American companies. And as I stated before, 50% of companies that operate in Canada are American owned. So let's take a look at this clip.
The threat of tariffs looms over the Canadian economy. More people are doing what they can to buy Canadian. Topping the list is food. But as you may have noticed yourself, it's easier said than done. CTV's Heather Wright spoke with shoppers in Toronto to find out how they are handling it.
So I've got decaf tea, which is a British tea.
When Ellen does her grocery shopping, she tries to pay attention to where products are from.
This is a local yogurt.
And while she aims to buy local or Canadian-made products, it's not always possible. So where are these from?
It just says USA.
And is there a Canadian alternative?
Not that I'm aware of.
With U.S. President Donald Trump vowing to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian goods on Saturday, and Canada set to retaliate with its own tariffs on U.S. imports, consumers are bracing for an increase in prices at the grocery store. And some have already stopped buying American goods.
I think we're being treated poorly. I think we're being bullied. And I'd like to do what I can.
Depending on the product, there often is a Canadian option. All of these apples are either grown in the United States or Canada, but depending on the time of year, it is very hard to buy certain things from this country. For example, all of these oranges are imported from the United States or other countries.
But after decades of free trade, it can be hard to know what is Canadian and what isn't.
Kraft peanut butter is made in Montreal with peanuts from the United States with a brand owned by an American company. So is that a Canadian product or an American product?
Dairy, eggs, and meat are often Canadian products, but a lot of seafood and packaged goods are imported from the United States.
Canada has drawn up an extensive list of U.S. products to be taxed, with prices on both sides of the border expected to rise quickly once any tariffs are put in place.
Okay, so that's another video that they're not going to show you. They're not going to go deep in research, talk to Canadians on the ground that are feeling the impact of what is going on. They're not going to go out of their way to talk to Canadians to ask how they feel. They would not know that Canadians are ready to boycott American goods. And that is no good for Canadian. It's no good for Americans. And I stick with what I said earlier. This is the most ridiculous trade war I have ever seen. Canada is America's closest ally. Canada, America, Mexico. We are all landlocked. If Canada suffers, America is going to suffer. If Mexico suffers, America is going to suffer. And if you're old enough, anyone old enough would remember, like in the 70s, in the early 80s, the American-Mexican border was secure. The American-Mexican border, so many Mexicans were not risking their life to come across America because the Mexican economy was more stable. So, destabilize Mexico, America is going to feel it. Destabilize Canada, America is going to feel it. So I believe that the North American Trade Agreement, Canada, America, and Mexico, all governments should have a vested interest to make sure that all three countries are good. Yeah, it's all good and well to choose a trade war with China, to choose a trade war with any country in Europe, any country in Africa or the Middle East. But the three countries that are landlocked, it makes no sense. It's like cutting off your hands to spite your feet. And that makes no sense. So guys, this wraps up the video. And sound off in the comment section and let me know what you think about this. Do you think that this is the best solution that we could have gotten? And do you think that in a month time that Donald Trump is going to try to move forward with this? I don't believe that. I believe that this is the end of it because a trade war is not going to help Donald Trump. The midterm election is going to be coming up in no time. Donald Trump cannot afford to lose the House or to lose the Senate. So it's in his best interest to make sure that Canada and Mexico, that relationship is good. Sound off in the comment section. Let me know what you think. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And remember, peace I'm out.